Hello again, everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather on the last day of February 2021. It's going to be March already tomorrow, and I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic out in the Aleutians, high wind warnings out for tonight into tomorrow there for the entire Aleutian chain for winds gusting as high as 65 to 85 miles an hour, and western Aleutians there, the western zones, have a hurricane force wind warning out tonight for 65 knot winds out of the west for the night tonight, and then those will start to come down to just storm force levels tomorrow at about 50 to 55 knots through the day tomorrow for the entire Aleutian chain, and windy also across all the southern Bering Sea. Otherwise, for the Kuskokwim Yukon Delta, winter weather advisory for tonight. And same thing for Nunivak Island up to St. Lawrence Island, winter weather advisories, some snow and blowing snow and reduced visibilities in the blowing snow. And moving up to the central interior there, the Tanana area, the greater Tanana area, the great Tanana area, winter storm warning, that's until 6 p.m. this evening, so there's a couple more hours to go on that. And may pick up another couple inches of snow, but starting to taper off now. And 6 to 12 inches total in that area, with the heaviest fell over toward, Minchumina, I believe. And otherwise, winter weather advisories for the Fairbanks area into the Alaska Range, as well as the 40-mile country and up into the Yukon Flats, as well as the Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley. Winter weather advisory out for tonight into tomorrow. And Noatak Valley, Kotzebue Sound, Selawik, Seward Peninsula as well. Winter weather advisories tonight, snow and blowing snow, reducing visibilities, but not to warning levels, though. And then up along the Arctic coast, that's a wind chill advisory there on the west side for wind chills to 50 degrees below zero. And the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, also a wind chill advisory, but over Kaktovik Barter Island, it's a wind chill warning out till 6 a.m. Monday morning for wind chills continuing around 65 degrees below zero or so. And from there, looking at satellite image, you can see that very powerful storm quite vividly out there into the far western Bering Sea, or southwest Bering there. And that brought the gust 85 miles an hour for the western Aleutians, hurricane force wind warnings, and front winds anywhere from 60 to 70 miles per hour there in advance of the front into the Aleutians and up into the Alaska Peninsula as well. Falls Pass had gusts to 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour this afternoon, and anywhere from 40 to 55 miles an hour for the eastern Aleutians, and then back 60 to 70 miles an hour, Adak and Atka. And Atka peaking about an inch and a third of rain in the last 12 hours with that system. And you can see a fair amount of moisture spreading up, especially with the higher and mid clouds, all the way up to about St. Lawrence Island, right on the edge now, pushing into the southwest coast with the mid and higher level clouds. And then that system spinning, weakening there as it moves into the northern eastern North Gulf Coast, passing over Yakutat and cutting into, or moving inland now this afternoon. And back to the west, areas of snow fell in over the eastern interior, about the Yukon River Valley, southward across the Tanana Valley. So pouring snow at Fairbanks into the Copper River Basin, where they had anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow in some areas of the Copper River Basin in the last 12 hours, on down into kind of a wet snow situation for Valdez and the North Cordova area. And then it cuts off Cook Inlet, just some flurries lingering in Madanuska Valley, maybe the Susitna Valley, and mostly dry for the most part for the western interior, some higher pressure in between the two systems there. Still cold and below zero over the interior, especially the north slope out to the Arctic coast, but milder conditions coming in, lower 40s over the eastern Aleutians with the southerly winds and rain, even the Alaska Peninsula. And on the chart today, again, south of the warm front, really warming up, and just about got rain at sea level now, south of that warm front into the eastern Aleutians, and still above freezing, though, for the central Aleutian areas, but strong winds. As you can see, the very tight gradient with that low across the western Aleutians, and the hurricane force wind warnings out through tonight, and light snow over the interior there, eastern interior, slowly ending from west-southwest to east-northeast. And breezy, though, eastern Alaska Range, portions of the Copper River Basin as well, and then rain and snow showers over the Panhandle, and dry over the western interior all the way up into the Arctic coast with weak high pressure. And for tonight, that high center kind of shifts over into the Mackenzie River Delta, Northwest Territories of Canada, And wave forms on the frontal boundary there and scoots up into eastern Bristol Bay. And so rain, wind for the Alaska Peninsula, and an area of rain now with the warmer temperatures pushing in over much of the southeast Bering Sea, maybe mixed along the southwest coast with snow and blowing snow increasing in Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, St. Lawrence Island area, and snow pushing into across much of the Kuskokwim Valley, kind of cutting off up toward Northway and Tok, and then lingering snow showers. That area of light snow really fading away up there along that weak trough, just a few scattered light snow showers or flurries toward morning there in the central interior, otherwise dry for much of the interior down into the North Gulf Coast. And unsettled over the Panhandle as that system continues to weak. Couple of troughs still caught up in the west-southwest flow and keeping it occasionally damp. And for tomorrow, that strong low continues to weaken. The tighter gradient now north of the Aleutians, just catching the north sides there, but still storm warnings out for the entire Aleutian chain through the day tomorrow. 50 to 55 knot winds, mostly out of the west there, and but lose the hurricane force wind warnings. And for the southern Bering Sea, should be pretty windy there for the Pribilof, so that low center just cutting up to your northwest. And wind, snow, blowing snow southwest coast, probably into Bristol Bay. Drier for Kodiak Island, some rain or snow showers there. And chance of snow, Copper River Basin, Kenai Peninsula, and to a lesser extent, Cook Inlet, just snow showers to the Alaska Range, cutting off there south of the Alaska Range. So the north of the mountains there, not much at all, and still mostly clear and cold for the northern interior. And that next system increasing the wind and rain off the southeast coast once again as it pushes in. And then that pushes into western Canada, and you're left with southwest flow behind that as the low in the Bering Sea makes a good jog to the east there, right near Kodiak Island, with rain and snow there, and rain and snow periods of, but not too strong on the winds, not too heavy on the precipitation, just still a wet weather pattern for the Panhandle with southwest flow off the Pacific. And some snow lingering, Tanana Valley, Copper River Basin, and also over the western interior, quite an area of snow and light snow, maybe a few inches in some areas, Kuskokwim Valley, up in toward the Yukon River. Then cutting off there along the Yukon River, north of there, just mostly dry, maybe some flurries for the North Slope and eastern Arctic coast, and quite windy along the west coast, all the way from Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, southward. St. Lawrence Island, still looking at gusts 35 to 50 miles an hour, and even stronger southeast or the southeast Bering Sea there. Nunivak Island, Alaska Peninsula could be seen easily gusts to say 50 to 65 miles an hour with snow as the colder air comes southward. Places like King Cove and Falls Pass, as well as the eastern Aleutians, but higher pressure, lighter winds over the west central Aleutians. Next system pushing in, shimmying at 2, right on the edge of that warm front in the afternoon. Lows tonight, 15 below there for the Copper River Basin, and single numbers just above 0 for Kenai Peninsula up into the Anchorage area. So Sitna Valley a little below 0, upper 20s northern Panhandle, lower to mid 30s in the south. And again, below 0 over the interior all the way to the Arctic coast. And for the Pribilofs, lower 30s out over the Bering Sea, lower to mid 30s there. And then lower 20s Kodiak. Highs tomorrow near 40 Kodiak Island, lower 40s Alaska Peninsula, 35 to 45 for the Panhandle. Teens southern Alaska, mid to upper 20s right along the coast there, mid 20s northern Kuskokwim Valley. And single numbers, 5 to 10 there for the eastern interior, and below 0 for the Arctic coast and North Slope. And for Monday afternoon, upper 30s to near 40 Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, and 30s for Bristol Bay. And for the lows Tuesday morning, just above 0 for the south central area, and 6 below Copper River Basin, otherwise mid 20s to mid 30s for the Panhandle. And a little below 0, 5 to 15 below central interior, and then 20s below 0 for the Brooks Range, and then 25 to 35 below for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. And colder air back in over the Pribilofs down into the teens, 20s for the Alaska Peninsula and the central Aleutians. And then the highs, upper 30s, lower 40s for the Panhandle, lower 20s, south central Alaska, mid 30s, Kodiak Island, teens, Copper River Basin, 5 to 10 above, central interior, below 0 to the north. And it looks highs in the single numbers there for the Yukon and part of the Kuskokwim Delta, staying below 0 for the St. Lawrence Island area, lower 20s for the Pribilofs, lower to mid 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, near freezing for Unalaska, and mid 30s for the central and western Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, looking at the first line weather graphic for Monday morning, band IFR with a system coming in well into the southwest interior and extending up across the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, and pushing in across Kamishak Bay into southern Cook Inlet, almost into Kachemak Bay, and down across Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, and then some VFR to start with early for northern Cook Inlet, Madawaska Valley, right up into the central and upper Tanana Valley, and much of the eastern interior. Also some VFR there, northwest interior and the coast, Seward Peninsula into Norton Sound. Marginal VFR lingering central interior right on up across the Brooks Range. A lot of them north slope in the Arctic coast. IFR, eastern or part of the southeast coast, otherwise marginal. Then that area of IFR extends, makes a good jog to the east there, overspreading southern Alaska in some areas or most areas, back to the southwest coast, cutting across the northern Bering Sea. But south of St. Lawrence Island, you're right on the edge of stuff there. And marginal VFR right up the lower and upper Yukon River Valley to the Yukon Flats. And VFR eastern North Slope Arctic coast. And central eastern Brooks Range on down across, again, Selawik, Kobuk Valleys into the Seward Peninsula. IFR southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, but improving there, trying to become all VFR for Kodiak Island. But that'll be short-lived. By Tuesday morning, IFR with the next system pushes into the area and covers Bristol Bay and back in across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta again. Marginal for St. Lawrence Island, and then VFR holding there for the Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula. Some IFR on the central Brooks Range into the Koyukuk Valley. But VFR again, southern Alaska, northern Cook Inlet, and lingering marginal VFR over from the 40-mile country down across the eastern Copper River Basin, eastern North Gulf Coast, Panhandle looking pretty marginal. And for the afternoon Tuesday, IFR for the Panhandle, a pretty good bet, and marginal VFR from the North Gulf Coast. In fact, central southern Alaska, pretty good chance of seeing marginal VFR just about everywhere. Maybe mostly VFR possibly for Cook Inlet, western Kenai Peninsula, into the Susitna Valley. But much better chance of VFR out there, St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait Coast, Seward Peninsula, on up into the Chukchi Sea and along and just south of the Brooks Range into the upper Yukon Valley. IFR for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast and part of the eastern North Slope. And then some IFR for the southeast Bering on the north coast of the Alaska Peninsula to the north shore of Unalaska Island. Marginal for the Pribilofs, Adak and Atka, and then really nice out west, becoming VFR on Chitka, Kiska, Shemiatu, even the Komodorskis. And for passes, not too bad. Well, marginal for the Anatuvik, not too bad for Adigan, maybe marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR hopefully by midday. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR. And rainy, marginal VFR becoming IFR probably before noon. And windy, the central, windy, Isabel and Mentasta, a rapid deterioration in conditions, especially from west to east there, all starting out better and then becoming IFR into the afternoon. And that pattern also for Tanita starts out VFR, becomes IFR quite rapidly. Portage, same pattern, VFR to IFR. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR to IFR. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 feet trying to nudge northward, but the surface there can't even get up to Kodiak Island, then hugs the eastern North Gulf Coast, but north of the Pribilofs there and south of St. Matthew Island. And as far as icing goes, again, the two separate areas there, kind of a widespread area of mostly isolated moderate rime or mixed icing there coming in the southwest interior, Bristol Bay, southern Bering Sea, along the Aleutians, and a little bit heavier icing potential there for the eastern North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle, and extending down in toward Dixon Entrance. Jet stream, just the strongest jet core tomorrow, just south of the Aleutians there. As you can see, 130 to 155 knots, mostly out of the west. And lighter winds with those upper troughs, keeping the gradient pretty slack at that elevation in the interior. But a little bit more wind, 9,000 feet, 35 knots, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, 40 knots southerlies there across western Copper River Basin, and 70-knot winds into the eastern Aleutians, 3,000 feet, 50 to 75-knot winds now just south of that low, right across the Pribilofs there. And 50 knots western Aleutians, 65 knots into the Gulf of Alaska out of the west, light over the interior, turning northeast 45, Cape Lisburne, Point Hope. Turbulence up that way, look for some moderate chop tomorrow, northern Panhandle, moderate turbulence, St. Lawrence Island down along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast, moderate.
of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the strata starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Coastal water forecast for the Panhandle tomorrow. Small craft advisories, southwesterlies 25 to 30 knots there on the south coast. For the north coast, south to southwest 30 knots with seas just under 20 feet. Small craft advisories for the all the inside waters there with Clarence Strait 25 knots from the south, 30 knot southerlies for the central northern inside waters with 6-foot seas. And for the day on Monday, small craft advisories along the coastline there while winds come down over the inside waters. Pretty uniform, 20 knots there from the south with 4-foot seas, but for the south coast, west-southwest 25 to 30 knots and seas just under 20 feet, and seas right around 20 feet from the north coast where winds will be out of the south and southwest at 25 to 30 knots. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, big increase in the winds coming up there with gale warnings out and storm force wind gusts from the northwest to 50 knots expected, seas to about 7 feet. Small craft advisories eastern North Gulf Coast, and then full gales for the western North Gulf Coast out of the northwest at 45 knots. We've got top storm force winds for the Barren Islands, northwest 60 knots, 25-foot seas, and then hurricane force wind warning out for Kamishak Bay, west 65 knots sustained, seas 27 feet, 40-knot northwest winds for gales, southern Cook Inlet. And for the day Monday, northern Cook Inlet misses out on the big winds, north at 15, and small craft advisories for the southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay area, northeast at 25. Small craft advisory now for the Barren Islands and the North Gulf Coast. In case of the Barren Islands, west 30 knots, western North Gulf Coast, northwest 25, south 25 there from Middleton Island. Prince William Sound really coming down the winds on Monday, north 15, 2-foot seas. And for Kodiak tomorrow, storm warnings. Shelikof Strait, west 50 knots, gusts 65, sustained northwest 55 knots east side of Kodiak. And then Sitkinak to Kessel Cape, storm warnings northwest 50 knots, gale warnings for Bristol Bay, northwest 35, gale warnings for the north side of the Alaska Peninsula there, Bering Sea side, southeast 35, and then Sitkinak to Kessel Cape, or Cape Sarachef to Sitkinak, west at 30. And then for the day Monday, storm warnings for the Alaska Peninsula from the southwest and northwest there, depending on which side of the peninsula you're on, seas 30 to 35 feet. Full gales from Castle Cape up to Sitkinak and the east side of Kodiak, west 45 knots there, and small craft advisory Shelikof Strait and Bristol Bay. And 45 knot southerlies for the Fox Islands tomorrow, with seas running 15 to 22 feet, and storm warnings Adak and Atka for southerlies at 50 knots sustained, 20 to 26-foot seas, 55 knot southwest winds for Amchitka Island, and hurricane force wind warnings there for Kiska Island to Shimianatu, gusts 85 miles per hour, seas around 50 feet. And then on Monday, those come down to 55 knots and the seas subside to 37 feet, 55 knot winds there. So storm warnings out across all of the Aleutian chain. along and north of the chain there, 55 knots out of the west, and Pacific side, west 50 knots, seas running 35 to 40 feet. And then for the southwest coast, east 25 to 30 knots, southeast 40 for the Pribilofs, east 45 St. Matthew Island, north 30 knots for St. Lawrence Island. And for Monday, gale warning St. Lawrence Island, northeast 35 knots, and northeast 30 knots there, Yukon Delta coast, 45 knots northern Bering Sea out of the northeast, and west 40 for the Pribilof, southwest 30 there into Kuskokwim Bay. And for the central eastern Beaufort, or most of the Beaufort Sea coast, tomorrow light winds out of the north on the west and central coast at 10 knots, north to northeast 5 to 10 east side, 20 knots, Wales to Cape Thompson, first wind advisories Cape Thompson to Wales. Out of the north at 30 knots. And then for Monday, still northerlies 30 knots, Wales to Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. There we've got gale warnings, northeast 35 knots, 15 to 20 knot northeast winds for the central and west side, and brisk wind advisories for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east-northeast 25. And for tonight, quite a gradient develops as that storm deepens in the Gulf of Alaska. Snow and blowing snow increase. High wind warning Kodiak Island tonight into tomorrow. Heavy snow warning northern Panhandle, Klondike Highway, Skagway, and Haines for up to 5 to 12 inches of snow with winds gusting 40 miles an hour. And then here's the big storm out west with hurricane force wind warnings and storm warnings pushing in toward Adak by late tonight, early tomorrow. High pressure over the eastern Bering Sea shifts inland. Keeps it cold and dry with light winds over the west and northwest interior, snowy over the eastern interior, and a storm rages out over the Bering Sea.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.